Here we go.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't. Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Good morning.
Okay.
And here we are for another.
Really funny. Really
Hey, wait, you guys are coming in way too early. This is a beret. Tony Caravan with you for another edition of Tony Caravan Live. It's 4:52 a.m. I am pretty much right on target. I wanted to start this show at 5 o'clock. The color is a little bit faded back. Faded glory. Well, we have faded glory back there. I'm debating on whether or not I was going to go black and white with this thing or not. I don't know. And my coffee is extremely hot, so we're hoping it'll last. They say coffee's good for a couple of things, so that's what we're going to try out today. I'm going to go to the store later today. Pardon me. And I will be sometimes you just got to get that out of your system, you know. It's crazy, but it's like a thing. So today is, I have to look. It's Monday. It's the beginning of the week. Monday, August 2nd in the calendar year 2021. And there is some sort of thing, I don't know what that was, an anomalous thing hanging out on my top of my screen.
The Weather Watch forecast.
And I realize this means absolutely nothing to people who are not in the mid-Atlantic states, a mile away from an entrance to the Northern Appalachian Trail, and east of the Ohio Valley and several hundred miles away from the Atlantic Ocean. All right, and that's where we are. That's where I am and you're not. 61 degrees outside of my studio, and the high here today is supposed to be 73 degrees and the low of 54. And it's looking like Tuesday is going to be 75 degrees, and it's going to be one of those cloudy days, they say, whoever they are. 59 overnight, Wednesday, 10% chance of rain, mostly sunny, mostly cloudy, depending if you're a half glass full, half full, empty, whatever the heck, 59 degrees. Thursday, 79 degrees, 61 for the overnight. And Friday, your weekend time, it's partly sunny. Let's be positive. 82 degrees and the overnight 64. So it looks like the weekend is shaping up to be a nice hot one. Pressure cooker. Still the
Weather Watch forecast.
dog days of summer are still in progress. Let's not forget that. So, you know.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Gotta have my coffee. I was once in a hospital. There was a guy next to me had open heart surgery or something like that. You know, I think the guy was dying or something like that. And there were people around him as if they were like standing vigil. I know I don't want to start on such a negative thing. But he was like, I need my coffee. I need my coffee. Anyway, it wasn't long after that I checked myself out. Sometimes you go, in some cases, the availability of health care is too easy. You know, and for some people, it's like, it's not at all. It's not even available. But for others, it's just too damn easy. And I'm speaking about myself, you know, like I was at the hospital earlier this week. And in retrospect, I wonder if I should have even gone. You know, Still wheezing a little bit, but I don't have any fluid in my lungs. The title of this show, as we are 5 minutes into it, and by the way, how the heck are y'all, is Let's See Where We End Up. And if we look at the title card, thanks to... And by the way, you know, I always give credit where credit is due. And this is a Dave Seguin design. Bad Kitty. Okay. Bad Kitty. Man. I would like that kitty to come over. I would even forego, you know, let that kitty, you know, have it out with my other kitty. Just a thought. Even though she's a cartoon kitty, she's very beautiful. before we get into the title card and the show and what we're planning to do today, I'm going to go up to my video capture device. And I'm going to look at my color correction filters. And I'm going to consider that This is considering doing the show in black and white. This is considering doing the show with just a subtle tint. And this is, well, that's far too much saturation. I mean, maybe we'll just do a subtle tint. How does that sound? Yeah. Because it's early in the morning. This is more what it really kind of looks like. So we'll do that. And then I'll just bring out the title cards and things like that all the more. The Morning Show, hosted by Tony C. Free flow of consciousness. And as I said, let's see where we end up in the title of this show. And let's see if we can't get 100 viewers today. And that's up to you. You've got to share this. If you come in, share this. Share this right and left on your social media, everywhere you go. Subscribe, like, give a positive comment. Let's make this thing happen. All I want is 100 viewers. You know, I'd even like 50 viewers. But the idea of having, well, right now I have 0 live viewers, but this will be, you know, archived. So it'll be playing after the live cast is over. But, yeah, I'd like to have more than 2 or 5 viewers. And it's not like some clown I saw yesterday on YouTube who said, I need 1,000 viewers. I want to get to 1,000 viewers so I can broadcast live or something, he said. What he meant was he wanted to get to 1,000 viewers so he could monetize. It's, buddy, you're starting off lying to your potential, you know, supporters. It's ridiculous. That kitty has a tail. And there's my the classic iconic head of me peeking through. But we need to get the full name. That is a t-shirt, by the way, that's available at TonyCaravanLive.com. So let's see where we end up. And it's going to have to be one of those days of
Channel check. Left channel. Left channel.
right channel. Right channel. My voice should be in the center of both loudspeakers. I used to have those other ones, but I don't know where they got to. But anyway. That's geeky audio stuff. You know, this is a beret. Yeah. And this is a cup of coffee. I made a point to make sure that my cup was hot before I started pouring the coffee this morning. So anyway, so yeah, free flow of consciousness. What does that really mean? Well, it's kind of what I did in my book, if we get rid of Bad Kitty Cat Codex. back here, which I haven't shown in a long time. Codex. In fact, you can see a version of me here that looks kind of a bit older. Sans Just for Men. It's not really just for men. I don't want to give them a thing. Also, in this book, it shows some of my previous books, which I have behind me in a stack. But I actually have a total of 9 books, and I'm working on my 10th. I already do have 10 books, technically 11 books. But as I've said before, but since nobody watches, I have to repeat this stuff off every show. I incorporated one of those books, well, both of those books, into various books that came along thereafter. So there's actual hard copies, and I recommend you get the hard copy. You can get this on Apple Books and in Kindle form. But I mean, look at it. It costs like $12.95. Get it. Then you have it. It's a hard copy. It's a short read. But this one, the second part of this book, and I'm looking at it, is Free Flow of Consciousness. And like just random, I didn't prepare this. I didn't even know I was going to grab the book. This is Free Flow of Consciousness. So let's just look at a paragraph I just opened to by accident. This is in the second half of this book is a free flow of consciousness. I know that I honestly enjoy my solitude and the privacy of living alone, right? Though there were many times in my life, whether when I was married or just living with various girlfriends, that I thoroughly enjoyed sharing my space and bed with another person. Now I wish the cat wouldn't jump on the bed so much and wake me up in the middle of the night and early morning. I just want to get a good night's sleep! ! You know. So, what happens with this book is it begins with, in fact, I talk about the Earth catastrophe cycle. And like, for example, in this one, there's a pretty good summation of this. And of course, like I say, like always, I do mention all the various players. And my idea is, and I've always been this way. Like I mentioned Doug Vogt and the Diehold Foundation and Ben Davidson, Suspicious Observers, Velikovsky, even the Chan Thomas book, The History of Cataclysms at the CIA for some reason. And I've got a little copy there where you can see that's a page that was on the CIA.gov website that for some reason they had decided to classify for 50 years or something. It's like the UFO phenomenon. My chair's falling down again. It's either that or I don't know. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what. Really funny. I don't know what it was. It was something, I mean, geez.
Okay.
I didn't cue you. Cue you. So basically, when we're talking about a flow of consciousness, it just means, and my next book, my 10th book, the one that I'm working on, and that these shows are a part of, it's like part of the purpose of me doing these broadcasts. I'm completely demonetized. I don't make any money on this. And while I do offer these T-shirts and stuff, let's see if I have one here, and mugs. Well, you got to have the mug. I haven't ordered mine yet, to be honest with you. I think I'm going to order it today. I have to order. I'm going to make a note right now just so I do that. Okay? Order Rockflux mug. I will promise I'm going to order my own Rock Flux mug today. And I highly recommend you do too. And if you want to look fantastic like this young woman, you can get a hoodie or a t-shirt. And they come in various, various sizes, shapes, colors, men, women, there's even a sticker, with the logo on it, and a bag, a shopping bag, one of those cloth little shopping bags. So get that logo and some of my other sayings on t-shirts, right? So, yeah, free flow of consciousness just means kind of what it means. I mean, most people get that. It's I just thought today I wasn't going to really have a theme of any kind. I spent a lot of time yesterday, as those who have been following me, in case you haven't been following me, I haven't been feeling, all that well lately. And I did go to the ER. That's why I was talking about healthcare availability. The ease in which some of us can just walk into or have the fortunate ability of a friend or someone who will drive us to a medical place. And I have I have complete health care with no copay. Not because I'm wealthy, but because I live below the poverty line. It's one of those things I talk about a lot. It's like often out of the mainstream consciousness that, the poor are fairly well taken care of in this country and have been under, outside of politics, because I'm not a political person. I no longer believe in politics. I think we live in a corporatocracy, and they're the ones pulling all the strings. And the politicians are marionettes, and the media are just literally the press agents for the corporatocracy en masse. All that said, the poor for, since, it started with Roosevelt, then it was Johnson's Great Society, a little quick history lesson. And then, and straight up through into Clinton administration, we fairly had, we were at the pinnacle of where we had this ginormous safety net. And under Clinton, a lot of people don't know that. He actually kind of he cleaned out a lot of the, abuses in the system. It's hard to believe, some people say, oh, I'm a Democrat. But he did. And then recently, as I've shown on this show, and I don't know if I still have the image here, I think, somewhere, bonus image. It's so many different things. The problem is if I forget to name something, here we go. But recently, when I talked about this yesterday, I'm not going to talk about it again. I happen to have the slide still in my sources folder. That recently, with the passage of this, brought back the full welfare state in the U.S. And the idea is that, safety nets are fine, for people, and and like I say, I'm not political, so that, that just irks people. Because what I don't like is I don't like people who, it's one thing to have a personal philosophy of life or a belief or something, But there's two things about that. One, I don't think that you should force your philosophy upon another person, your ideology. And, that's the main point. And second point, which is drift, I'm so spaced out. I haven't had enough coffee yet, maybe but that's a cop out. Well, the second one was, you shouldn't force your ideology onto others. And, I don't know what the other one was. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Why, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Yeah, it's weird. I guess it's going to be one of those. Bad kitty cat. Oh man, that guy's a pretty good artist, isn't he? It's not a matter of just being able to draw. When I used to have artists that worked for me in the agency. I mean, I design things myself. I've been designing things for forever myself. But I'm not going to like toot my horn today. I'm talking about people who worked under me over the years. And I've come across some really, really good graphic artists and just people who could draw, sketch, and painters, whatever you want to call them. But usually someone along the line of this Dave Seguin guy, if I'm pronouncing his name right. I don't know him personally. This is art as far as I'm concerned. This transcends graphic, design, graphic art, and it just, it's art because that he has the ability, the expression on the girl's face, the pose, everything about that is just, it just works. And I could remember so many times over the years, particularly when I was running the advertising agency, I'd have people and I'd be like, look, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what here's an advertisement, a print advertisement. Here's what the client is trying to get across, or here's what I'm trying to get across in this ad, or here's, we're designing this, whatever. And people would draw things and it would just be, if I was asking for a cat, woman type of, it would just be there, but it wouldn't have that extra thing. And I don't know if what you're viewing this on, someone has already came and left. What I want to do is we don't need to look at my name of my show. Let's just look at Bad Kitty close up. And what I'm saying, if you can see this, and I hope you were watching this on a TV. The TV, could you turn it on the TV, please? If you're watching it on the telly, and, is to capture, is to something that actually makes someone want to look at it. And I'm not talking just from an idea of this being, of the image being somewhat sexy. Well, a lot sexy. But it's the overall ability to capture, the hairdo, that goes with the cat, adding the tail, and then the James Bondian gun thing, that's just like, I don't know. Bad Kitty, the Catwoman assassin, but with the diamonds are sparkling. If you could see the image, like I say, hopefully you have a big screen. Considering I lost an incredible amount of weight, I don't know, my face with this beret on looks like extremely round or something. I don't know what's going on here. This is a beret. Vanity, night and day you torture me. I think unlike other people who broadcast, my face is too close to the camera. Most people have a desk and then there's a camera behind them and some production crew working back there. Or people in the booth or aside of them or something like that. And I'm just sitting in front of the computer using this crappy camera that's on my monitor. Of course, it's a $1,000 monitor that I bought years ago. But, I was just getting on this tangent about Bad Kitty Cat here, is that, And like in life, it's the same thing. You know, there are people that when you say, ask them to perform a task, whatever your expertise, like it's from a Twilight Zone. I'll let you figure who else. Expertise. Whatever your expertise is, it doesn't matter. It's whether or not you can take it to the level, you know, to this level. In other words, in graphic design, you know, this thing has life. This is alive. This is living. This is, you know, this is causing some sort of response from the viewer. All right. And that's what you want. All right. And in any kind of creative effort. And after all, and that's the other thing that, you know, is missing from our society today, has become very less creative. And the reason I brought out the book, and we'll just take Kitty off here for a while, though I don't want to, because the more I look at that face, you know, she's very close to becoming my new fave. I mean, it's hard to say, but I can't even figure out where she is now. Oh. Yeah. I mean, that's just pure, you know, skin, as opposed to, you know, kitty cat being, you know, pure kitty cat. So, title card. Back to normal. What I'm trying to get at is, in my book codex back here, which I was holding up before, those of you just tuned in, but I don't know, or fast forwarded or something like that. The idea is that we talk about consciousness, the hard problem of consciousness. There's a road rally. It's Monday morning. My studio's in the front room, and there's the usual Monday morning road rally that happens between like around 5 o'clock. It's 5 a.m. It's 5:18 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right now. And why at 5 a.m. there's a road rally on Monday, but not on Tuesday, doesn't matter. So it's like they have to get to work early because they blew off work Friday. I mean, I don't know what it is. You know, left early Friday and they're going to try to get in there early, get some stuff done before the boss figures something out. I don't know. Is everything all right? You get these tunes in your face. Was that a Jefferson Starship, not Airplane, right? Like some kind of weird love song or something. But, you know, for some reason this morning when I got up, it was like, is everything all right? It was in my brain. Well, the voice of 5:19 a.m. is incredible. I hear the train a-calling. See, this microphone will not give me the Johnny Cash voice. And I scared away another viewer. Happens every time. What I was trying to say is that in the book we deal with consciousness, right? And so the idea of the hard problem of consciousness is that consciousness is not your bioelectric brain, right? You know, these people walking around are zombies. You know, most people today, it's like a subconscious, which is a programmable. And you could talk to, you know, this isn't like I made this stuff up. You could talk to people about this, you know, people who study, you know, psychology, the brain, you know, personality disorders, you know, all that kind of stuff. People into this, psychiatrist, you know, whatever. Neuroscientist, you name it. The whole gamut, right? And so you can program the subconscious. And in other words, the biological brain, the Jell-O mold in your skull, right? That's all it is. It's like a Jell-O mold. It's ridiculous. The human brain, right? But that's not consciousness. And the same individuals, the same people who study the brain, human brain, will tell you there's a thing called the hard problem of consciousness. And that was coined by a guy named Chalmers, right? Who I refer to in my book. Another person just like skipped out. You know, come on, man. What's the matter with you? What's the matter for you? You know, you don't like a guy in a beret? And what happened to the Rockflux logo? I don't know. What do I need? Do I need to show Kitty Cat here or what? I wanted to have the phone up for a while. See, you like Kitty? Stay for a while. Hang out. Look at the pretty kitty. Look at the pretty kitty. Those diamonds actually sparkle. Well, anyway, what I was trying to get about is creativity, as in this, you know, work of art by Dave Seguin. I'm pronouncing his name right. And okay, so you have the nanny state that's raising people now, all right? I mean, that's reality. That's, you know, people get off of maternity leave and their child gets into basically healthcare, and depending on, or healthcare into childcare. And it depends on your, whatever level of income you have, you know, your wealth status, you know, what type of child care that is. But there are still in the US of A, there are certain, you know, standards that they have to adhere to, right? I mean, from the you know, the smallest, the lowest age, you know, on up through college, but definitely through high school. And so whether or not you're someone who gets free health care because you're living below the poverty line, or if you're one of these totally affluent people who are putting your child into some, you know, I don't know, some child care place off Central Park, you know, West or something, or wherever. It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is it's still they're being raised by the nanny state, because ultimately there's a certain amount of indoctrination and conditioning that goes on that comes from, that is basically dictated by the corporatocracy. All right. Now, that indoctrination, that conditioning that you have your whole life, because people basically go to school from age, you know, 1 to age 22, you know, to 25, you know, depending on whether you go for your master's or you just keep hanging out in college because, you know, you don't want to go anywhere else and you don't care about your student debt getting to 100,000 or whatever. Now, the point is, and then when you get out of that, then the indoctrination conditioning's over and you end up in the propaganda stage. That's the media. So either way, you're being programmed. The bioelectric brain is being programmed. It's programmable. The Jello mold in your, you know, noggin, all right, your skull. But your consciousness is not in there. Your consciousness, and this is the hard problem of consciousness, acknowledged, you know, by science today. Okay? All right? I mean, there's some people who have some ideas and different theories and stuff like that, but it's an open question and it's acknowledged in peer-reviewed papers and journals that there is no definitive explanation for what consciousness is and how consciousness, you know, exists and how it rises from the brain and how you experience this world in the first person. Okay? So you don't even think about that. You're like, you know, these people who come in and come out of this show, right? Because they can't figure things out. But that's because they are not conscious beings. They are programmed. They've allowed their Jello mold, their bioelectric brain, to be programmed. All right? From years of the education/indoctrination conditioning system. That's what it does. It's its purpose. It doesn't do anything else because people don't know anything. You can go to the government education sites, like Department of Education. We've done this before, and I'm not going to go down that, pulling up slides of various government websites. They coined the word functionally illiterate and put a paper out on that based upon exhaustive studies of people who graduated from, grade school, high school, and even college, and found out that, a ridiculous amount of people, all right, depending on the category, some in the case of a majority, and this is across the board. This has nothing to do with like economics, background, race, creed, color, religion, any of that nonsense. All right. Just across the board in the former US of A, right? Because we got a corporatocracy now. That across the board, no matter who you are, what you look like, that the majority of these people are functionally illiterate. All right. In fact, one could say that their people are overschooled. Overschooled. Like, who needs to go to school for so many years? In other words, I'm sorry to, the career woman and, and man or whatever, they make this decision that neither of them wants to raise a child. So they have the child, and then suddenly they just throw it and give it to the nanny state and say, raise it. Right. And come home and, and then some people have a nanny, the rich have a nanny at home. When a kid comes home from the nanny state, there's a nanny at home. When the poor the poor come home, it's, it's everybody just is everywhere. So what do you learn if the government itself, if the Department of Education itself, if there are studies out there, academic studies, since everyone seems to like academia are the do all end all, final word in everything. If they're talking about functional illiteracy in the U.S., and which is apparent through like the ridiculous crime rates, that we have, unsolved, tens of thousands of homicides a year, the majority of which go unsolved. People are getting away with murder on the order of tens of thousands of people, right? And then, there are I saw there's another interesting statistic. There's something like 600,000, this is like averaged out, people go missing a year in the U.S. But, ultimately, like a lot of it is figured out and stuff, but it still comes down to just under like 100-some thousand are like never are unsolved. And the guy was, the presentation of that was that, maybe those are like abductions. It's a free flow of consciousness conversation. So the question is, where do those 100,000 people end up? Right. The ones that the unsolved disappearances every year in the U.S. So, technically, I think the number is about 90,000. But, any statistic you get, government statistic, you could always add add something to it because, well, it's impossible to count you don't know everything, right? You don't know what you don't know. And like I say on my shirt there, everything you know is wrong. So we'll round it up to 100,000. What happens to those 100,000 people? Right? That's crazy. That's in the U.S. alone. Worldwide, who knows? These are people who just are disappeared. Like I say, initially, on average, it's well over 500,000 people disappear every year. But over the course of the year or years, usually, most of them are, except for 100,000, are accounted for. Something happened. They just decided to split. They were a victim of crime. Whatever the case may be. But 100,000, 90 to 100,000 people are just disappear every year. Means in a decade, 1 million people, right? So since 2011, 1 million people have disappeared in the United States and have not been, it's unsolved. 1 million. Since 2001, 2 million people. All right, unsolved. And again, that's not the annual number. The annual number is like 600,000 people go missing. But, through various explanations, through solving things, figuring out this, that, the other, about 500,000 of those people are accounted for in some way, shape, or form. Or at least they have something they could put down on paper that they believe to be true. All right? That's acceptable enough that it's like, okay, we could sort of close that case file for now. That's 500,000 a year. But there still remains this 90, say 100,000 to 100,000. So like I say, every decade, that's 1 million. So since 2001, 2 million people in the United States have vanished, just vanished. And there's no explanation for it. Right? Everything, in other words, no explanation whatsoever. This is cold case. And this is the same as the idea of, like I told you, like the scariest statistic of all. Forget about those numbers that they were putting on the TV screen saying, it's up and this is how many hospital, all that nonsense. Forget about that. Where are those 2 million people, man? Where are those 2 million people? Right? That's pretty freaky. They should have that. They should have a page like that, a tally of that. Right? 2 million people missing since 2001 with no explanation. Okay? I mean, how many people did actually went missing since 2001? Well, that number is astronomical. Because if it's 500 to 600,000 a year, that would be, do the math in your head. 10 times 500,000, right? So you were talking about like 100 million people since 2001. But I mean, though, like I say, but they can explain about 900,000 of that. It's still are 9 million of those people or something like that. It should be, I think it's 10 million. It would have come out. Am I right? No, it would be 90 million. Anyway, they can explain so many, but they still can't explain like 2 million people just vanish. No explanation. Not even no theory, right? These are people, forget about it. Well, the person might have committed suicide. The person might have went walking in a state park, might have fallen into some sinkhole. The person ran off with somebody. Whatever. 2 million. That's crazy. I mean, it's really crazy.
This is insane. 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 This is insane.
But it's not funny.
This is insane.
But it's not funny. It may be insane, but it's not funny. That's the thing. It's actually pretty scary. when you think about it.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So, and again, this is, if you're just tuning in, this is a free flow of consciousness conversation. We really have nothing, no topic specific today. Today, we're just going to go down the rabbit hole in any direction we go to and take it wherever we want to. I was just got on a little tangent there for a little while about this ridiculous number of missing people. 2 million people since 2001 that there's no explanations for. Like I said, 600,000 go missing a year. But out of that 600,000, about 90 to 100,000 are just unsolved. It's like the murders, annual murders, homicides. The majority of homicides go unsolved every year. And see, a homicide, see the two numbers, there's no correlation between those two numbers. In other words, when when a homicide victim is named, that's considered, and they can't find who murdered them, that's a cold case file with a person's name on it. And when somebody's missing and they can't figure out what happened to them, that's a cold case file, missing persons file with a name on it. So you can't say, oh, well, maybe it's just the unsolved murder. No, that's not it. And we could probably go into different categories, all sorts of things. Now, are they alien abductions? Is this louche? Are these people being eaten? Are they being abducted? I was watching some guy talk about like the Book of Enoch, the other night, which I haven't read. I got to get a copy of that. I got to put that on my list too. It's another thing to do. So many things to do, so little time. Book of. But anyway, how that's like kind of like this tale of the first tale of alien abduction, right? But who knows, or where are these people? So it's weird. But what I was talking about, we were getting involved with Kitty. All right. So let's get back to that because, this is very important. So we were looking at bad kitty cat. And we were talking about how, critiquing the mastery of the artist, the graphic artist here, okay? And how the difference, what constitutes creativity, right? And I was talking about consciousness in the human brain, how that's detached, because you see the world in the first person, that's through your consciousness, not your subconscious, which is programmable, okay? Right? Now, there was somebody popped on, but when this picture here, when this picture came up, that person left. Now, why would you leave? Right? It's weird. It's weird. This is actually the weirdest show, I've ever been involved in. The weirdest show I've ever been involved in. Not today's show. I mean, just in general. The type of things that have gone on remember, this is 7 days a week, approximately 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop. All right, no days off. Even the day I went to the ER, I did a show that morning. And the next day when I was deathly ill, I did a show before I crashed. Right? And we get these two playbacks and people just like coming in, coming off. It's like, what, are you afraid of bad kitty cat? You scared of that? Scaredy cat? People are weird. But they're programmed. See, their bioelectric brain is programmed from 20-some years of indoctrination and conditioning. You can program this jello mold inside your skull. But you can't program consciousness. Consciousness is who you are in the first person. You see? And that's how creativity utilizes the senses of this android body, basically, is what it is, right? It's an android body. And, you know, run by this bioelectric brain. That scared some fuck off. I guess it's going to be one of those days where I just say that. I mean, I can't fucking believe people. Don't you want to learn? You know, this is the problem with people today. I was looking throughout YouTube yesterday like a lunatic to see if I could find anyone who had less than hundreds, literally hundreds of views. And it was impossible. I couldn't find anyone. Right? It's hard to find people who have less than in the thousands of views, let alone 2 people. But when a guy like me speaks the truth and gets into these very intriguing ideas, you know, of real and based on fact, and then fact checks it live, not through some, you know, pretend, you know, ideological, you know, horse pucky. It scares off people like, oh, I gotta run. I can't. Oh no, it's the truth. I must run. I might learn something about my jello mold inside my bioelectric brain and my android body. That's why, like I say, that's why I don't care about politics or any of that stuff anymore. Because the people are functionally illiterate, and that's not me saying that. That's basically the professionals. That's academia. That's the studies that are out there. People are going to school for 20-some years, and it's indoctrination and conditioning, and they're programming the bioelectric brain. Okay? That's your subconsciousness. I refer to it, it's like being subhuman. It's your android body, right? I mean, that's what this is. He's another person just zeroed out. Okay? The moment you mention android body. Oh, frickin' idiots. I'll tell you, man.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's pure comedy. It's pure comedy. Yeah, living in this world of functionally illiterate people that don't even want to hear the truth. Don't even want to take a shot at it. Aren't even interested in like listening for 5 minutes. Something that can help them the rest of their life. Well, anyway, I you know, it's like I almost need to just block out. I don't want to even see these people come in and out, right? Look, creativity is something that comes from consciousness. All right, consciousness is separate from the human brain. Okay, that's fact. That's science today. That's hard science. That's good science. All right, that's accepted science among the major institutions in the United States. Okay? It's called the hard problem of consciousness. All right? I'm not making this up. Now, your brain, human brain, bioelectric brain is programmable. All right? That's indoctrination and conditioning. That's what the school system does. People come out of the school system and they're functionally illiterate after 12 or 20 some years. They barely could remember anything they were taught. They've done these man on the street interviews. They do testing periodically. Both the states and the federal government require a ridiculous amount of tests. When I grew up, we never had those kind of tests. That's how they get their continued funding, because they're constantly testing. I know school teachers who always complain. It's like all we're doing is teaching the kids about the tests so that we could get, you know, because if we don't, we lose our funding. So they're constantly testing people. And what these tests have yielded, and these are, you can find these reports, and I've done it in a previous show, is that they've come up with the term functionally illiterate, not me, the government. All right, the testers. And that after all of this education, people are functionally illiterate, which means they have poor, writing skills, poor language skills. Forget about math and science. Those are way, way, way below. And poor reading skills. Poor attention spans. Right? And how do you think why they developed the apps and the 140 characters and the meme became like popular, and why TikTok is, and why YouTube has gone into shorts now, right? Everything is like short. All right. Because of all of these studies. So I'm not making something up here. I'm talking to you. I'm trying to enlighten you with something. Scared some other stupid idiot off there. They just don't want to hear it. See, they don't want the truth about themselves. It's funny. If you're going to tune on, you think you'd at least give the guy a reach around. I'll tell you, man. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to say.
You got a rattlesnake inside your house. You got a rattlesnake inside your house. Oh, yeah.
There's just one in here?
Yeah, I hope.
Call David Bailey now.
Hey, David Bailey.
Well, Kingdom, eat your heart out.
Oh, yeah.
That's the classic tattoo rattlesnake. Based on a true story. I mean, the guy had a rattlesnake in his house. There's a video, I think, on Tattoo, T-A-T-U, or one of his websites on YouTube. You should check it out. I think it should be that little short thing itself should be a hit, Like maybe we need to make it like this.
This is insane. This is insane. This is insane.
Somehow tied into some kind of DJ, record scratch, dance mix, right? Who knows? Maybe he's already done that and I've forgotten. What do I know? If you look closely at my microphone behind the Tony Caravan Live Worldwide webcast, you can see an electric guitar. I don't know if you can catch that. I had all this stuff. It's like some kind of pin. But anyway, so my idea is that you're lucky, the average person is lucky if 6 years of school is necessary. I mean, total, right? Considering that if the testing is showing that the average person is functionally illiterate, all right, and that their brain, it's just programmed and conditioned, right? Then what good are they? What good is 12 years, 20, plus years? Because you come out and you can't do anything. You got no reading, writing, math, science. I mean, basically you're functionally illiterate as far as a human being is concerned. In other words, without this device, if the power grid goes down, you're lost because you can't look it up on Wikipedia. But that's where what I was talking about, this whole thing started when I started talking about creativity, and it was the bad kitty cat that set it off. Where I was talking about, in this instance, in graphics, this is pure creativity. And I worked with a lot of this show isn't about graphic design, all right? I'm just using this as an example. I'll jump into some other ones in a second. But having firsthand experience in graphic design and other areas, this particular ability of a person to create an image that provokes a response, a reaction, all right? That is creativity. All right, that's art. You could call it pop art if you want to, right? But nonetheless, to me, that's art. I in fact, I would love to have, a 5 foot, 6 foot life-size version of that framed on my wall. And I may well try to get that. And I worked with all these graphic designers over the years when I was a creative director in advertising. And they just didn't have it. They didn't have that ability to just to make that design provoke a reaction. It's the same in the music business. It's that ability, what makes a hit, right? What's a hook, that type of thing. And no matter where you look, and that's creativity. See, that's consciousness. That's not programmable into the jello mold, the bioelectric brain, all right, that just runs this body. This, like I say, it's an android body. So people are walking around like zombies. I argue all the time. You could call it soul. You could call it consciousness. You could new age spiritual thing, whatever you want to call it. It's the idea, it's that which is not programmable inside the jello mold, inside your brain. All right? It's that which defines you as an individual. And whether or not that thing is eternal, and whether life is a soul experience or whatever the heck it is, if there's some mysterious thing that science will discover that says it's this thing in the brain that brings consciousness into existence, if science wants to say something like that, go ahead and try it, Bad kitty cat. Anyway, I'll take that off there. The show's not about that. Maybe that's scaring people away. I don't know. I can't tell. The idea is that without creativity, you are a zombie. All right? You're a zombie. You just follow commands, right? You're like it's a hive mind. One of my beat poetry songs, I talk about that. The hive mind. You're just following commands, right? And you're easily led around. And that's how we are today, if you look at society today. And so people are just easily led. The cult of personality. People can't let go of that stuff. When I was younger, I saw all this stuff happening, even when I was a kid. And it just I used to say it. I say it to my parents in the living room. They just look at me like, what are you talking about? And I used to say, what's going on right here is a worship of a cult of personality, of these, whatever they may be, these actors, these singers, these sports personalities, these TV anchors, these whatever. Politicians, more so than anything, because that's what it is today. Pop culture's politics. So people have a cult of personality, and they just can't let go of that. They need a leader, right? Lead us. Lead us. I don't have creativity. See, when the person anyone who follows the cult of personality, all right? I don't know if you can hear those noises out there, but it is like crazy. This is a neighborhood with a 25 mile an hour speed limit, and some 18-wheeler just zipped by my house doing like 65 miles an hour, right? And, well, of course, who knows if kids will ever go back to school. But in school season, they do the same thing. And there's kids waiting for a school bus, and these 18-wheelers go by at 65, 70 miles an hour on a 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood. You talk about brainless, spineless, cult of personality, functionally illiterate people. It's crazy, Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it just... But I really have to harp on this, and I don't care,
Making up the rules as we go along.
I mean, because, that's what the show's about. You have to awaken your consciousness if you don't. Because if you find yourself falling for some cult of personality, that if you're obsessed with politics as pop culture, the way everybody seems to be, if you're following the leader, the Pied Piper, okay? Think about it. It doesn't end well for you. And all these stories and stuff that, it's like the Emperor's New Clothes stories. All of these tales, there's a reason they were written, and there's a reason, more so than reason they were written, there's a reason they survived. Things that survive for a purpose. And, that in and upon itself shows the power of the words and why we should pay attention to them. But man, the level of functional illiteracy that we see right now is beyond belief. It is beyond belief. Like I said, I hadn't been feeling well the past couple of days, so I've spent a lot of time upstairs in my room, flipping around YouTube in desperation to find something to watch, to pass the time before I could go to bed, to sleep. Right? Can't go to sleep at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. You wake up at 1. It's bad enough. I get up today. I asked my voice assistant, there's one I have 2 of them, one in the other room, so I'm not going to say who it is, but it's the one that begins with an A. And I said, hey, what time is it? And she said, it's 3:57 a.m. Great. So I laid in bed for another 10 minutes. So when I got in the bathroom and I'm washing my face and getting ready for the day, shaving and stuff, I have a clock in there too. And it's like 10 after 4. So, it's 5:59 a.m. It's like almost 6 a.m. right now. Eastern Standard Time, former United States. And
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And that's because I went to bed early last night. I had a full night's sleep, man. Basically. Yeah. But what I was trying to get at is I was flipping around YouTube because I cut the cord with the cable. And I still have this other box I got from Cloud TV. I don't know if you heard of that. Well, they were selling these boxes like 2 years ago. It was like they had some special. It was like $15. And if you bought it, and you paid you're supposed to pay like $4.99 a month subscription for it. I mean, if you wanted these extra channels. But I did, and I paid the $4.99 for a while and stuff like that. But then there were some channels on there. It was like, certain things, and I didn't want to watch it. I was like, well. And in fact, one of the first guy banned from YouTube, put it this way, his channel's on there, for example. And then some other channels that I don't know are on cable were on there as well. And there's all kinds, and there's other like legitimate channels, like things like Crime TV or other stuff like that. I don't watch that stuff. But anyway, I put on that the guy who was the first guy kicked off of everything. You know, in desperation yesterday, I turned on that box and it was still active. So I guess there's no, since however they're set up with the thing, they don't, you know, either they want the viewership, you know, the numbers, you know, for their whatever, or they don't have the capability like Sirius XM to like instantly like zap your box. And so you no longer get, you know, the moment you don't pay your, you know, you unsubscribe from satellite radio or something like that, you know, it doesn't work anymore. Well, anyway, this thing still works like a year later after I like unsubscribed. And I don't care if it goes blank on me or not, but I've had it unplugged and all that stuff. I moved it from one room to another, but it still works. But you know, that guy, and you know who I'm talking about, the original whatever. Absolute nonsense. You know, there's so much that could be done, could be said in a format free of everything. And it's the same old stuff. SOS, right? So I flip it around YouTube. So I go back to YouTube. You know, so this is like late in the afternoon. It's still, I can't go to sleep at like 3:00. I wasn't tired, but I mean, what am I going to do? You know, it was raining. We had a thunderstorm. I couldn't go out in the backyard, you know. I had already walked that morning early. I'm going to do it today in about, when this show's over in less than an hour. I'm going to walk down the street to a mile or so to the grocery store, you know. So I had my morning exercise, my walk. I got the things I need. I beat the storm out. So it's raining. I'm stuck in the house. I did my show, watched my show, you know, fixed a few things, you know, had some food, took care of the cat. I did everything. But, you know, you get up at 3:00 in the morning. It's a long day, right? So it's 12 hours after I've already been up for 12 hours and done like more things than most people do in several days, right? And I'm flipping around YouTube, just looking for something to watch. And, you know, as you pass and slide along, you do some searches, this, that, the other, and you see all these various title cards. You know, and when I say title cards, that's what Bad Kitty is my title card from today's show. You know, this is the title card that, you know, I'm assuming brought you here, right? The title card. All right. There's a free flow of consciousness. And I'm looking at these various title cards and and whatever the caption is underneath it, which is what the show's supposed to be about. And I'm seeing the most unbelievable things that people are talking about. And then I've even gone to, you know, various, you know, in my recommended list, you know, if you watch something, you know what I'm talking about. You're YouTubers if you're watching YouTube. You know, so your recommended list is, you know, it's a kind of about 80% based on something that you viewed. Though 20% of the stuff you go like, what the heck is that doing there? Right? You know, the stuff just shows up like as if as if it's something you're interested in. It's like, no, I'm not interested in that at all. You know. But anyway, so I'm looking around this, and then, you know, you have to jump down below that, at least the way my setup is. I use an app on my TV upstairs. Is the news, you know, the line that goes across with the news, you know, like the network. And they're all like major, mainstream news. Okay. And I look at the stuff, I look at the title card, you know, i.e. title card, and the caption underneath, because it's all you really need to know, right? In many cases. Because they know humans have such a short attention span that you don't even have to click on the thing, right? See, at least on mine, you know, it says free flow of consciousness, and it's like Bad Kitty Cat. It's like, if you don't click on that, you have no idea what's going on, right? and that's intentional, right? But these other ones, they basically, it's a meme. It's a YouTube meme. It's not really a title card. It's a meme. It pretty much says everything, right? You don't have to watch it, except for the ones that are posers and clickbait, which I've talked about in the past. You got a lot of that on YouTube. The YouTube millionaires, the people who monetize or get monetized. I'm not monetized, so it doesn't really matter. I don't care. But these people, they literally pose. And suckers click on it. Clickbait. Imagine a word, when the words that have come into our vernacular that have no business, that should have never been, actually that widespread. Clickbait. Everybody knows what clickbait is. So I'm looking at this stuff. Clickbait you could spot easily, but the rest of it's not clickbait. It's actually, they're memes. They're just memes because they know people aren't even going to click on this stuff. And what's going on in the world and in this country based upon what you see on these mainstream memes on YouTube. Like I say, you don't have to watch their video clip. Is another world. It's a frickin' another world. It's like,
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
Right? Or it's like,
You have actually opened the door to another dimension.
Why are you telling us this?
I'm telling you this because it is very important for me to see a society totally disintegrate into, beyond functional literacy, to follow the leader, to the Pied Piper cult of personality, emperor's new clothes, every ridiculous thing that I was ever raised, to know to be abhorrent and to avoid has become mainstream. And no wonder this video, when it's all said and done after the live and it's been posted for several days, will only have 5 viewers, which I still can't explain that. Like I said, I've searched and searched and searched and talked to hundreds of people. And they say, no, I've never seen anybody only get 2 views, 5 views. Like I said, I've had videos that had 0 views already. How is that possible? There's supposed to be this thing. Well, there is this thing called live. There's another row that's live. And at any given time, YouTube, the time frame right now over in Europe and Asia, they're into their day. And there's hundreds of millions of people on YouTube. And you're telling me not a single curiosity seeker sees that kitty, that cute kitty, right? And just clicks out of curiosity? Right? So what are they doing? How do they, what's the deal? Blocking me somehow? It's goofy. It really, it defies all logic when you think about it. It absolutely defies all logic. But I've gone beyond, I don't care, because I watch these things. Like today's going to be a perfect example. I'm going to finish this show. I'll go take a walk down the grocery store. There's a few items I need to get, plus it's some exercise. I'll come back, relax, feed the birds in the backyard, check the garden, go upstairs, and I'll sit down for 2 hours and watch this show back, playback of this show back. It'll be great. And by that time, it'll be like maybe close to lunchtime or something like that, and I'll make myself something healthy to eat. And then I'll be caught with the dilemma again, going like, man, I've been up since 3 a.m., and now it's only like 12 or 1. So it's like I got, what am I going to do? Now what? So maybe I'll go outside, sit in the sun. If the sun pops up, I'll go out in the sun, sit in the sun, get some vitamin D, right, for a little while on my lounge chair in my backyard patio amidst the garden and the fresh air, assuming the neighbors aren't doing anything ridiculous like, burning garbage or banging. You know, I mean banging, like literally banging hammers and doing some kind of weird thing. There's some guy in the back that's been working on his truck that I've seen him drive, number one. So it's not like he's painting it or anything. But he's got the lid open and he's constantly looking. And I'm like, I feel like going back there and going like, what are you looking at? You know, what are you doing? I've seen you drive the thing. So what are you doing? I mean, you know, you change the spark plugs, you know, change the belts, right? Make sure the timing's right, the battery is working, the cables, the power's going. You know, I mean, you know, it's a 21st century vehicle. All right, it's not like, you know, it's either the computer parts or, you know, the things you can actually fix. There's few things you could fix these days, you know, in a car by yourself, you know, but by hand, so to speak, right? You know, and you know, there's things you can change, but you know, if it runs, then your computer system in it is running all right, and that's half. You know, that's more than half of the battle. But yeah, this guy every day, he's got his like the trunk, the hood open, and he's leaning on it and whatever, and then you hear noises and tool noises and stuff, and it's like. But like I say, the thing is like painted. It's not like he's fixing rust. I said, well, what could you do for a month? I don't know. So it's some kind of game. I don't know. Maybe the guy's up to something else. You know, maybe it's like when I'm not looking, you know, it's like somebody's coming by and he's like selling drugs or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. I have no idea. It's weird, bizarre. I just want to get my vitamin D and in peace. So, you know, people have creativity. And those people who have creativity are conscious beings. And those are people who, I think there's two ways of looking at it. Either A, they have consciousness, a soul, whatever you want to call it. Or B, they were able to resist the indoctrination of the nanny state so that their consciousness is still intact, so that they weren't programmed. But if you're programmed, the idea of deprogramming a human being, it's impossible. You know, back in the 60s, you know, there was a lot of people got involved in cults and different things like that. And they had to be so-called deprogrammed. And that was like a ridiculous process. And you could talk to people in the psychiatric field, you know, human behavior, people that deal with that kind of stuff. That's no easy task. It takes a lot of time. And nobody even talks about that today because they won't even acknowledge that basically the education system is indoctrination and conditioning and programming. Because the output in the final analysis is they openly admit that people who come out of that system after 12, 20 years, whatever, are functionally illiterate. So what did they learn? What did they learn? Why were they there? The nanny state. So, in other words, take place for them to be while, you know, the mommy and daddy, the cattle go off to work, right? And do their, you know, proper productivity, you know, function in society, which is they're becoming less and less necessary now, people in general, right? And so now you've got these functionally illiterate people that aren't even going to be able to do anything. So that, so maybe that's the problem. Maybe that guy back there is functionally illiterate. He's just staring at that under the hood of his car, and he doesn't have the common sense. It's like, buddy, take a wrench. You could unscrew. It's the spark plug, man. Just like replace your spark plugs. All right. You're obviously home all day, so you must be on some kind of fixed income or disability or some kind of weird thing. So you probably got more money than I do. Buy a set of spark plugs, Buy a new battery. Buy some new belts, and various cables connecting here and there. Because that's about all there is under the hood, Clean out your carburetor with some, WD-40 or whatever. Or put that on, whatever. I don't know. Change your air filter, change your oil filter, change your oil. Get a new life. Well, put the WD-40 on your hinges to your door and clean your carburetor out differently. But anyway, I was just saying. So when I look around, and I looked around YouTube, all I saw was insanity. It's as if there's a world out there that everyone's living in that I feel completely and totally detached from. And so it comes as no surprise to me that I only have 2 viewers or 5 viewers when it's all said and done once this thing is posted and is up for a week or 2. I've looked at videos that I've done. Remember, I've done a video every day, 7 days a week this entire year. Think about that. Think about that. We're more than halfway through the year, right? We're talking about, what, 150 plus like 180 videos, something like that. And they all have, and my title cards are kind of cool, because I have that, I'd click on that just out of curiosity. People don't even click on it. Because if they clicked on it, I would get it. I would get a notification. Not a notification, but my analytics would show someone clicked on it. And I would get a thing because I have it here, and it would say, 6 seconds. Sometimes that happens. I'll get a person, and it'll be like, okay, concurrent viewing time, 6 seconds. Which is about the attention span of a goldfish, and which is the attention span of most human beings. So I will see that happen from time to time. But I'm talking about, it could go back like 2 months, and these videos have been up there for 2 months with these cool cards, right? On a channel that's been active, that used to get views in the thousands back in 2013, 8 years ago, right? And now is getting, and you'll see 5 views. And it might have the most dynamic, title card, so to speak, YouTube meme, whatever you want to call it, or interesting title below it that would be like, And it's got 5 views after 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever. Weird. So it is indeed, it's like I'm living in some alternative universe, really. That's the way it feels. It's an alternative universe. And it's absolutely,
This is insane. This is insane.
Yeah, it's insane. So I couldn't find anything to watch yesterday. Anything. I flipped back to trying to watch an episode of this old show they used to have on TV called Grimm, right? But I couldn't even finish the episode that I had started watching a couple of days ago. I turned it off. I was just like, can't do it. That's why, because I have Amazon Prime. And whatever their latest movie is, whatever, I have no interest in me. It's some kind of love story about something or other like that. It's like, I'm not, I don't want to watch that. I have no reason to watch that. It's not going to interest me. And I'm on some panel like for Amazon Prime Video too, where I can criticize their things, and it's like, what purpose is that? And I'm becoming look at that. I keep shrinking. This chair. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. If it's not one thing, it's another. So yeah, I don't know. I can't figure it out. I can't figure people out anymore. I'm glad I'm retired out of the advertising industry. Because what the average person wants would be I would not be enjoying, because any job you have, you want to have fun with. Right. If you hate your job, change it. I've had a lot of different jobs over the years. I just, if a job got was screwed up, I just left it. Now, that's another part about creativity and about the human mind and confidence and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I've just quit because I knew I'd do something and get something better. But yeah, I couldn't stand to try to deal with this follow the leader, Pied Piper, Emperor's New Clothes, cult of personality, politics as pop culture society right now that puts issues ahead of reality and living and, quality of life and stuff. And everybody's got this some kind of weird, where is it? I get so many images here. I'll bring the horror woman back, maybe. This. Everybody's freaking out and scared to death. Like it's a horror show or something,
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
It's not a nightmare. It's this is life. It's like that statement that I hate. This is the new normal. I hated that when people were talking. We used to say that. Well, this is the new normal. Yeah, well, it is, and get ready for lockdown 2. It's coming. All indications are that that's happening with this new, part 2. After all the things, everything we were promised, everyone did, everyone followed this, followed that. Not everyone, but I mean people in general. And now they said, no, that's not enough. That wasn't enough. We're changing, In fact, where's the thing? They've decided. Can't even find the things I want to look for when I want to look for them. I know it's right in front of me.
Making up the rules as we go along.
Now they've taken that from me, and that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Making up the rules as we go along.
Yeah. And people are buying it because they're following the leader. I don't know. I mean, I don't get it, I'm not going to be, allow it to be a horror show for me. Yeah. You just got to move on. Like I said, I get stricken down and you got to pick yourself up. Just get up, get back up, fight it. I've had to do it, life hasn't been easy for me, but, you don't give up. It's easy to want to, for a lot of people, they want to curl up into a ball, or to become, basically just drugged up, scared to death. But that doesn't solve any problems, That just adds to like the 50-some thousand people that commit suicide a year or drug overdoses and things like that. People find, that other aspect. I was talking about statistical numbers early on about disappearances and unsolved homicides. But then you have the actual suicides and overdoses and all this kind of stuff. People finding life so unbearable, And then this authoritarian rulers that just have people scared to death, like it's a horror show. Really weird, So, and I have no answers for that. All we can do is we can observe this, right? We can observe what's going on out there. But I prefer to observe, either Bad Kitty or, or this, as far as I'm concerned, I'll take that. Getting choked up. Some people probably think I bring that image up too much, but, I'm trying to keep myself hydrated. Coffee ran out. I'm considering, I don't have a coffee pot. I have like a tea kettle, which I don't really use. But I was thinking of getting like a traditional coffee maker, just your basic. I don't even know if they still make it, like a Mr. Coffee type of thing. Something that'll make like 2 cups, at least 2 cups. So instead of having 1 cup, I could have a second cup heated and I could just go grab it and refill it up. But that's just me. That's just the
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Personal babble. So, it's like you got to find, if you have consciousness, if you're conscious, if you're somebody who's actually been able to resist the programming, then, you just got to figure out what to do on your own. You should subscribe to this show and watch it regularly because for the most part, I deal with some good issues and it's interesting conversation, I think. And it's kind of fun sometimes. And there's some other people out there that are doing some interesting things. But, you really have to have something to do. Now, I can't, it's 6:30 a.m., all right, Eastern Standard Time. And I understand, and I guess in the former U.S., a lot of people are just sleeping, right? Because they're not working. We went over, that was part of yesterday's show. We went over some of those stats, I think. How many million? Yeah, because we did go online at one point. It was either yesterday or the day before. There's millions and millions of jobs available now, and they're giving $1,000 signing bonus if you take a job at McDonald's. There was and I was just like in one area, in this area, which is kind of like surprising. There was a $2,000 bonus to work and just like stack boxes or load boxes into trucks. And we're talking about like, it was either at FedEx or, it was FedEx or UPS or one of those type of places. So, I mean, you're not talking like crates and stuff like that. You're just talking about Basically, probably stuff from Amazon and Walmart or whatever. And it has a $2,000 sign-on bonus to take that job. And it was like $23 an hour if you took the, wage. And these other, and imagine McDonald's, $1,000 sign-on bonus for McDonald's. Millions and millions of jobs available and people aren't working. And some people are saying, it's because of this, they're still giving, bonus money for unemployment to people, which supposedly runs out in September. But I don't even think it's that. No. I just don't think people want to work, period. I think people are gaming the system, they've just, they've got it all figured out. These people haven't paid, the eviction thing runs out today officially, I believe. Right? In other words, the moratorium on being evicted. So either that's going to be like an emergency, EO, or some kind of congressional thing rushed through Congress and the Senate or whatever to extend that, or all hell's going to break loose. But if you really think about it, maybe it's not as bad, even if they don't do that, don't renew it. I think there's a greater chance that they will extend it. But even if they don't, they might not. Well, if you haven't paid your highest bill is your rent or mortgage usually, right? Sometimes it's like a third, of your income. And if you live in major markets, it's insanity, right? You could be paying $3,000 to $5,000, or people paying $3,000 to $5,000 in New York City for apartments. I mean, these are people who had good jobs, making 6, 7 figures. But I mean, even smaller places, people were paying in the thousands, or at least 1,000, or 1,200, whatever. I mean, the last place I was at, it was costing me before I purchased this house, which is a cheap house. My taxes, mortgage, and insurance are only $200. I say that all the time, so it's like cheaper than anything. But, if people were paying these high rents and decided not to pay them because there was this moratorium on eviction, well, unless they were ridiculous spendthrifts, and it's hard to imagine being a spendthrift, if you, with thousands and thousands of dollars, people should have, some people should have $10,000 in the bank at least. Depending on what it's either that or they got a house full of like crazy gadgets. They sit around watching, I even forget the names of them because I don't have TV anymore. The Home Shopping Network or whatever. Those type where people sitting around watching those, not paying their rent and just buying everything that comes on. If they indeed lost their job and ended up below the poverty line or something like that, well, then they would probably applied and are getting the equivalent of food stamps in their state, whatever they call it in various states. Here they call it EBT. But, and they should have free health care if they're below the poverty line. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I didn't notice anything on YouTube when I turned it on. Like, just out of curiosity, we're getting towards the end of the show, but I'm not at the end yet. I'm going to turn on another browser. Hopefully this doesn't mess up. My CPU is pretty high today for some reason, though. Let me just pull up another window. Now, I don't want to open, I'm trying to figure out how I can do this. New window and see if this opens to YouTube. If I could have 2 YouTubes open without like eliminating my thing. All right. I see the morning show is showing up on here on my channel. Now, there's the news about the, that 19 thing. I'm just glancing here. Let me do a search on YouTube and see about eviction moratorium. That's the first thing that came up when I started to type. Squad members sleep outside Capitol in protest of ending eviction moratorium. That was 16 hours ago. Millions at risk of eviction after moratorium expires 12 hours ago. Rent forgiveness now. They want forgiveness. See, if they do that, then what about me? Shouldn't they send us a check? Eviction moratorium ending. NBC News is a whatever. 1 day ago. Eviction moratorium ending. Eviction moratorium ending. Federal eviction moratorium expires 22 hours ago. House Democrats' appeal to extend eviction moratorium ends in vain. Senators are working to hammer out a bipartisan deal on infrastructure. That's CBS News. So House appeal to extend eviction moratorium ends in vain. Bill Bennett on Dems push to extend eviction notice. House crisis looms for millions of renters as U.S. eviction moratorium ends 9 hours ago. Lawmakers call on Congress colleagues to extend CDC eviction moratorium explained. Why would the CDC be involved in it? What CDC's eviction moratorium means for renters and landlords. Eviction moratorium set to expire Saturday, 2 days ago. I thought it was today. I thought that like Sunday didn't. Landlord fed up with tenants who owe back rent. What to do if you get an eviction notice. NBC News 1 day ago. White House outlines efforts to fund eviction moratorium. So, see, that's what I'm thinking. There might be a little EO put out today. Pelosi confident eviction moratorium will be extended. Delta changing the unspeakable. Eviction moratorium vote. Elizabeth Warren calls on Congress to immediately extend it. Okay. You get the picture now. So, I guess we'll find out today. It seemed like their first effort was pushed back. But who knows? I don't know. Reading through all that stuff and then getting to those points where the White House, I guess there'll be some kind of and what does the CDC have to do with it, right? The CDC isn't technically like a government agency per se. It's like receives funding. I mean, it gets some government funding, but it's like people like, Bill Gates and stuff fund that thing. And it had a certain amount of independence. I mean, it's not as independent as the Federal Reserve, which is just a consortium of central banks and has nothing to do with the government. But it's almost like kind of like that thing. It's like it's got an incestuous relationship with the government, but it's really not. It's not an official government agency, right? Like the FDA is actually a government agency, the Food and Drug Administration. People don't know that, but the idea of seeing that the White House has commented on it in a sense of extending it, and that the CDC is trying to like dig this thing that I don't talk about into it it means that might be that'll be the justification. So there'll probably be some paraded, these people will parade out in the White House or something on stage and extend it. But the one somebody was holding a cardboard sign with the poor penmanship that said, "Rent forgiveness now." It's just not fair. Do you understand? It's just not fair. You had a year, okay? I'm willing to say, okay, fine. But you see, in other words, there are a lot of people who who paid their rent and mortgages or whatever during this moratorium. And the whole concept of it was a moratorium, but you would have to pay the money, right? It wasn't like a thing where they said, "Oh, well, it's rent free." So to extend it, is like these credit card things that I show people who are regulars to my show. I show these things I get in the mail all the time where there's a credit card offer and it's like 36% interest and an annual fee of $125. They give the people a $300 balance and they deduct the $125 annual fee before they send you the card. So the day you get the card in the mail, you're paying 30-some% interest on something on an annual fee. And you got, $175 credit to spend. You go out, you buy something, and like I say, in 6 months you're in collections. And they triple or quadruple the amount of money you owe. And the magistrate or the sheriff's knocking, the sheriff's knocking on your door, sending you to a magistrate, and then he tacks on his fees because people don't even understand that magistrates are in it for the money. They get a commission. All of these things that you don't know what you don't know. Go to TonyCaravanLive.com and get the frickin' shirt. Crying out loud. You don't know what you don't know. But if you watch this show, people watch this show, I tell you. You maniacs. Yeah, it's a trip. So, yeah, after, 1 year's enough. And how would they ever? So then they're what? Are they going to have rent forgiveness? So, some landlords, who are owed, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars or more. And I'm not talking about the big corporate, landlords, the nationwide ones, right, that own, hundreds, if not 1,000 office apartment buildings. No, I'm talking about the guy who just rents out an apartment in a duplex or, somebody owns got a rental property just so that they would have like a retirement fund or some extra income. They're responsible for paying the mortgage and taxes and insurance and stuff on that and the sewage and all that kind of garbage. And so people are living in that place not paying them. So these people are struggling. So, and there's a lot of that. It's like I give the example with small business. They used to say, I don't know if it's true anymore, but I'm pretty sure it is. But I don't think after the lockdown. But the biggest employer in the U.S. was small businesses. So, small businesses closing down and locked down and not coming back, there's all these people unemployed. So they're never going to get a job. And as time goes by, these robotics and AI and algorithms are replacing everything. And so now they want to forgive, put all these other people. In other words, what happens to the landlord, who is underwater now? Because their tenants weren't paying their rent. And they didn't have the right, the law was against them evicting them. And I'm going to say rent forgiveness? Well, rent forgiveness would mean paying those landlords that money, right? the taxpayers. Well, that's not right. And if there's rent forgiveness and the landlord, so those people are going to, end up in poverty. And if there is rent forgiveness, or if there is an extension of this moratorium, then the average person like me and you, then we deserve some kind of money. You can't give money to somebody and not give money to the other person. That's not how it works. It's justice is, this is the problem. That's another thing that goes on in this country as of late that people seem oblivious to. You don't, well, it was no fault of theirs that they lost their job. Yeah, well, anytime you lose a job, most of the time it's no fault of your own unless you go in there and give the finger to your boss and get fired. Right? People lose jobs every day and have been losing jobs every day since the beginning of jobs. Right? Jobs get eliminated. Companies go bankrupt. Right? Companies move. Corporate headquarters move. Look what happened, when they first outsourced all the jobs in the U.S. to China and things like that. And Mexico. Back in that original NAFTA thing, remember that? It's one of the reasons why Detroit, however you want to pronounce it, became such a ghost town. And why, and high crime. Because Mexico was making, GM and all those companies moved down to Mexico to make cars and locomotives and things like that, and refrigerators, I guess. And China's making, GE, all that stuff was made over in Germany and China. Even windmills, like key windmill parts and stuff, weren't manufactured in the U.S. So, like, even that whole movement, was like destructive to the U.S. economy. But anyway, all that stuff said, there has to be a certain balance. So you don't give money to one person and then just have the other person, and let somebody live in the, survive and thrive while another person struggles. And that's his problem with this, this whole sort of this weird socialist, communist, utopian, weird, far out, Pied Piper, Emperor's New Clothes, cult of personality, politics is pop culture, media lying society, right? And people, and people just sit here and they just say, well, so what? I'm functionally illiterate. I don't have consciousness. I'm programmed. My Jello mold, right? That somebody just left when I did that. They can't stand that. Because that's what they have, a Jello mold in their brain. They have a Jello mold. Did you ever see, when I was a kid, my mom used to sometimes put fruit in the Jello. But not all fruit was good in Jello. Like a banana, like if you put sliced banana in there, the banana would still turn like brown in there. Because you put a banana in a refrigerator, isn't like, right? And so it's like these people got in their Jello mold brains, they got slices of banana and rotten and grapes that are going rotten or something in their brain. Totally programmed by the nanny state, following the Pied Piper. They don't see the emperor has no clothes, and yet they're giving their hard-earned money or free money to the cult of personality, campaigns that just goes to feed the behemoth, the corporatocracy, the media, corporate media. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's insane. One last time.
This is insane. This is insane. This is
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know. This was kind of a semi-fun show. It was interesting. I don't know. I shouldn't watch the morons that come in and out of these shows. You know, get a shirt. Go to TonyCaravanLive.com. Go to, or RockFlux.com. It's the same page. It's not a website. It's not technically a website. It is a website, but I mean, it's like, I haven't built it out yet. Go there, get a